Hello everyone, welcome to week 3 of TN Sports Chat presented by Lehigh Valley Health Network. I'm Patrick Matsinko, this is Emmett McCall. A lot of action that we've had kind of going on. I know our schedules have been sort of mixed up with some postponements, cancellations, but it seems like we've kind of we're getting into the thick of it right now. I guess we're midpoint of the season. Teams are kind of already looking at clinching district first. We have a couple that have already done so. So I mean, what have you seen so far, especially with basketball?
Yeah, we've had some pretty big games in the last week or so. We're going to have more in the upcoming weeks. But one of the first things I want to talk about is one of the boys basketball teams in our area that's having a really good season is Tamaqua. They were the first area team to clinch a district berth. They did it last Friday when they beat Jim Thorpe. They're 11-2 right now and playing really good basketball.
Yeah, and Braden Knobloch obviously missed the beginning of the season with an injury. He's been back now, and he's playing extremely well, performing at a really high level. Last week, I think, was the Schuylkill League Athlete of the Week.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a huge part for that team, and I think you see just how valuable he is.
And they were playing really well before.
Without him.
Right,
yeah.
And you had Thad Zuber, who's team's leading scorer. He's averaging over 15 points a game. We have Lucas Gregoire. Thanks, Jill. That's a shout out to Jill with that pronunciation there.
Almost like Jaguar, but
yeah. But he's averaging over 14 points a game. Braden's averaging over 10 points a game. They're getting rebounding. They're getting contributions up and down the lineup. They're playing really well, and they have a big game coming up tonight. Actually, they're playing in Pottsville. Both Pottsville and Tamaqua will have one loss in the division. They're both chasing Blue Mountain in the Schuylkill League Division 1. But since two teams in that division get a playoff berth, this is a really important game. There's still like half the season left of league games, 6-7 league games teams have, but it's starting to get to the point where these games become important.
Yeah, and it's funny, you kind of think about Tamaqua talking about all those different contributions that they're getting from these different guys, and it almost maybe reminds you of the football team, right? When they were splitting quarterbacks, and you had so many guys that it could have been, Nick Reiner, it could have been Boyle, it could have been Knobloch, it could have been Zuber and Casey Rother. I mean, you had those guys that gave them all these different options, and it seems like it's kind of the same way for the basketball team.
And a lot of the same names are playing basketball too, so they're off to a great start. Somebody else we wanted to talk about are the Weatherly girls. They're 8-4. Playing really good basketball. A couple of years ago, Weatherly was struggling to win 2-3 games in a season, and they've really turned it around the last few years. They're led by All-Stater Emily Zolson, and Emily's she's closing in on the 1,000 point mark. She'll probably do it in the next game. She had 30 points on Monday night in a win over Schuylkill Haven, and that got her to 989 career points, so she's just 11 away. And they play, Weatherly hosts Notre Dame of East Stroudsburg tonight. They host Minersville on Thursday, so she should be getting that in the next day or two.
Yeah, and it's kind of incredible because you think about, maybe back to the track season, there's a kid, an athlete that Weatherly is a school without a track, and I know there are a lot of schools in the area that are, in similar situations, but she was a Schuylkill League and district champion. I mean,
went to states.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a phenomenal story, and her brother Scotty Zoshin also extremely good for the Weatherly boys basketball team.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, for yourself, a couple other things that you've kind of picked up on so far.
Well, one big thing that happened, and they're not a team in our coverage area, but a team that plays in the Schuylkill League and kind of connects to our coverage area. The Minersville girls basketball team lost the game Monday night. First time in over a year. They were undefeated last year, had a 41-game winning streak snapped by Monterey area. And the last time Minersville had lost before that was like in the 2016 state playoffs. They lost to
Which
Newman
says
Goretti.
something. I mean, that you're losing in a state playoff game and against a team like a Newman Goretti.
Right.
So,
and so they've been the team to beat in the Schuylkill League for the last 3 years now. 4 years maybe, and Monterey looks like they're establishing themselves as the possible successor to Minersville. Although Minersville's still 10-1, but Monterey beat them Monday, and Monterey has a big game coming up with one of our local teams, Marion, tonight. Both teams are 5-0 in the league. Both teams are 10-2 overall, and back in the day, Marion and Mona used to play a lot of really big girls basketball games for Schuylkill League and District 11 and even Eastern semifinals of the state playoffs back in the day. So I think that'll be a pretty cool atmosphere up there on tonight for Marion and Mona.
Yeah, I mean, those games are, those Schuylkill League games seem to always kind of draw that interest. It's maybe not so much like a Schuylkill football type game, but the crowds are always there, and there's always people that are really invested in those types of games and those sort of, like you talked about, those kind of rivalry games that just go back, such a long way. People have so many memories of those types of games. So,
and speaking of rivalry games with great crowds and interest, we recorded our show last week on a Tuesday, so we didn't get to talk about the Marion Panther Valley game, which was played Tuesday night, the boys' game. And I received some random text. I have a lot of friends from Marion, Panther Valley connected, kids playing for the teams, and I got a whole bunch of calls and texts about what a great game it was, what a great atmosphere. People saying it was one of the most intense, enthusiastic high school basketball games they've been at in a couple of years. So they had a great crowd up there, great student cheering sections, and then you had an outstanding game on top of it.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the perfect storm, right? I mean, you're thinking about like a national championship type game where it's all this hype and all this hype and all this build up, and sometimes it's a dud.
Right. If the game isn't good, no matter how big the crowd is and how enthusiastic the students cheering sections are, it's just
you can't fluff it up.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that game went down to the final seconds, tie game.
Ready for grow up.
Panther Valley guard made 2 free throws with 4 seconds left. It turned out to be the difference in the game. So, but I talked to Coach Cramsey of Panther Valley for another article we're working on a couple days after the game, and he told me that it was really, really a good game, that both teams made runs at each other. There were lots of big plays, lots of clutch moments by both teams. And in that game, we had the 2 leading scorers in the Times News boys coverage area.
Which, yeah, I mean, that's obviously saying something when, again, you're talking about not so much maybe star power, but I mean, those are guys that you can kind of point to and say, like, hey, these are sort of like the alphas of their teams almost.
Right.
Tyler Fritz of Marion and Figueroa of Panther Valley. And again, it seems like week in and week out, these guys have been delivering. And those are the kind of things that it's good for the sport, it's good for the area. Again, just to kind of see that interest. I know Panther Valley was involved in, another kind of cool situation, kind of doubleheader earlier this year against Jim Thorpe, where the girls played Panther Valley and then Jim Thorpe boys played Panther Valley. It was a neat doubleheader
and
with 2 nice crowd.
We're getting a lot of teams, at least once a year, sometimes twice and 3 times a year, teams are doing that now. Tonight, Palmerton and Northern Lehigh are doing it. Girls, boys, doubleheader. Stroudsburg and Pleasant Valley just did it Monday night.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. The JVs will play their separate doubleheader at one school, but then you put the 2 varsity teams back to back, and you get better crowds and a lot of interest. And I think our schools are really liking that.
Yeah, and I think again, it's just good to kind of get people out, get them to the games, and and to see what these kids are doing. The work that they're putting in, the time and the effort, and it's nice to kind of see them rewarded like that. And sometimes TV's there, and TV will cover it, as a doubleheader, and that's it's exposure, and it's great for them. So. It's always nice to see that.
Speaking of rivalries, Marion and Jim Thorpe played on Monday. You were there. You covered it. Another game went right down to the final seconds. You talked to a couple of the Thorpe players after the game.
It was going to be hard. They're our rivals. They're always going to be playing hard. We just had to make sure to play pressure basketball and play our type of basketball. We knew they were going to have a run because they're a great team. They know how to shoot. They know how to pass the ball well. We just had to make sure that run wasn't big, and we just had to cut it down and make sure that we came up on top.
We've had some early season games where we couldn't close out, but this one was huge for playoffs. We got playoffs up soon. That's going to be huge, getting momentum to get in there and probably try to get the same success that we had last. It's huge to know that we have the ability to close out games from now on. So we're going to rely on ability to make free throws, to handle the ball, be strong when there's only 2 minutes left and it's a 1-point game.
This means a lot because we need those 11 wins for district, so we just making sure that we add up as many wins as we possibly can before the end of the season.
that was Chris and Nate talking about Jim Thorpe's win over Marion on Monday night. And again, that was a game that seems like Marion and Jim Thorpe too, I think they played a lot of games like this where they go right down to the wire. And they played in the season opener this year. It was 41-36, I think, going into the fourth quarter. Jim Thorpe used a big fourth quarter to pull away. But, you know, this was a game that Thorpe was up 23-8 at one point. And, you know, Marion made it a 61-60 game on a three from Tyler Fritz and had a couple of chances late to either go ahead or tie the game at the buzzer.
You got to love local rivalries like that live up to the expectation.
Yeah.
And even if the teams aren't, you know, 10-0 and 10-0, if you get two good teams, comparable teams playing against each other, makes for a really good game. And speaking of that, we have one tonight down in Palmerton. We talked about it, the Northern Lehigh Palmerton girls-boys doubleheader going on. Let's talk about the girls' teams a little first. They're playing the first game. Two teams, Northern Lehigh and Palmerton. Palmerton, I believe, was 6-16 a year ago. Northern Lehigh only had 4 wins a year ago. They've already surpassed that. Palmerton's right on the verge of already passing last year's win total.
I mean, right now, as we're doing this, they both have 5 wins. You know, and this is a case where these are two programs that seem pretty evenly matched, right? I mean, you have Palmerton with Emily Recker, Linnea Lister, you know, Leister. You have Bailey Giedis. I mean, you have, you know, these girls that have kind of been filling these key roles, key cogs for the team this year, and you know, it's really a program that's taken a big step.
They're both on the verge of making district playoffs this year, which if you would have looked at them last year, you would have thought, no way.
Yeah.
They're both 5-8 overall, but Northern Lehigh actually has a winning record in the Colonial League. They're 5-4. Palmerton's 4-5, so it's a big game tonight. Northern Lehigh has the leading 3-point shooter in our coverage area in Jada Sager, and then they have Jill Oline. So I mean, they have a really good 1-2 punch. And you mentioned some of the Palmerton players, so that should be a really good game tonight and an important game for both teams tonight.
Absolutely, and again, those are, you know, they're rivalry games, so you don't need any extra motivation to get up for it. But when you're coming into it and kind of knowing that you're into the second half of your season, you know, that sort of run to the playoffs starts now, and every game's important. So. You know, these are definitely the kind of games that you maybe sort of circle on your calendar and, you know, you really look forward to, that they have that sort of extra meaning where a playoff spot might be at stake at the end of the year.
And the boys' game is in the same situation. Northern Lehigh 7-6, Palmerton with a 5-8. So there are two teams, once again, hovering around the 500 record you need to get into districts, and two teams in that instance also that are much improved from a year ago.
Yeah, and you know, you see that, I think, just, you know, thinking about Monday night's game with Northern Lehigh and Saucon Valley. I mean, Northern Lehigh placed several guys in double figures. You know, it's Preston Kemery, it's Brandon Hess, it's Gio Cologne. You know, I'm not getting them all, but I mean, but to be able to kind of pick and choose which guy you're going to have sort of carry the load, I guess, so to speak. That's huge for Jeff Miller and that whole staff.
Right, and Palmerton the same way. Again, lots of contributions. Of course, Nate Doherty is the leading scorer, but he's got a lot of support too.
Yeah, and you know, head coach Ken Termini again. You know, we've talked about this before, but second year there, and it definitely seems like these guys are really, you know, buying in. The program is certainly on its way up, and again, it's, you know, we might talk about Nate Doherty, but it's other guys as well.
Right. So you know, and there's one more basketball note we want to get in here. We talked about Tumaco boys qualifying for the district playoffs with their 11th win on Friday. Last night, or Monday night, excuse me, we had two girls teams get their 11th win. Lehighton and Northwestern girls both won their 11th game, so they're both have qualified for districts as well.
And that win was huge for Lehighton. I mean, that was a win against the Blue Mountain team where they both came in with one loss, Division I Schuylkill League.
And Blue Mountain with a really good history of girls basketball success. Like, Lehighton's playing at a level that they haven't been since in their few years in the Schuylkill League. They're a contender now. And
again, that's a huge win for Lehighton. It keeps them as a one-loss team in the hunt, you know, kind of right on the heels of North Schuylkill, which beat them, you know, already earlier this season. But they'll get another crack at them. I think right now it's January 30th maybe that they get to play North Schuylkill again.
Sounds right. Yeah.
So they're right in the hunt. And Skyland Faust again with 24 points. just kind of really continues a phenomenal season after already getting her 1,000th point. But again, too, it's Aubrey Blasiak. You're getting all these different girls that are filling those roles and helping head coach Joe Breswick get this team where it's at.
And the impressive thing about Northwestern girls getting their 11th win on Monday night is Saturday they played Southern Lehigh, who's been the power in the Colonial League the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And they thought they had a chance at them. They gave them, that was the second time they played them this year. Earlier in the year, they only lost by 3, but Southern Lehigh played really well Saturday. Northwestern had one of those games where they just couldn't get things in gear, ended up losing by over 20 points. And then you play that on Saturday afternoon. You have Sunday, which I'm assuming they probably didn't practice, and you come back Monday, and then you play probably the second or third best team in the Colonial League in Notre Dame, and Northwestern was able to come back and bounce back from that loss and beat Notre Dame.
And again, you think about Chris Deutsch. I mean, he's been there for a long time, and every year Northwestern's a team that's in contention in the Colonial League and districts. No matter what the roster turnover is, they're able to get that program and keep that program competing at a really high level. And whether it's Southern Lehigh, whether it's Notre Dame, whether it's any of those schools in the Colonial League, Northwestern's always there knocking on the door. Now it's going to be a tough task to knock off Southern Lehigh, which Amanda Mobley. I'm just trying to think of some names that they've got some talent, and like you said,
right.
They've been kind of the standard bearer in the Colonial League for a while. But Northwestern's always in contention.
Right, they'll be a playoff team, and if you're in the playoffs, you have a chance.
Yeah, and thinking about, playoffs, it's not so much that we're, quite at that point yet with the wrestling season, but we do have, I think, not one of the first exciting type of events, but you don't get many things like this, I guess, thinking about individual league type tournaments, but the Schuylkill League Wrestling Tournament is this weekend.
Right.
And we'll have Lehighton, Panther Valley, Jim Thorpe, Tamaqua, teams competing there Friday and Saturday at Blue Mountain.
It's always a great atmosphere there. Once again, it kind of has the feel of a district tournament, which the programs are trying to get ready for. And we have a number of quality wrestlers from those 4 area teams that we have in the Schuylkill League who can contend for medals this weekend.
Yeah, and I'm just kind of thinking about last year. Panther Valley's Tanner Kennedy edged Lehighton's Cody Shear for a title last year at the Schuylkill League tournament at 152 pounds. He's our only returning champion, but last year we had a total of 17 medalists.
A lot of them are back.
A lot of them are back.
Yeah.
So. And again, too, it's a number of them are back, and a number of them are back with another year of experience.
Right.
And you kind of see what they've done this year, and thinking back to last year, and it's kind of, I guess, just exciting to think about what they're going to be able to do this year.
And it'll be nice for the wrestlers. Now, they've been in tournaments earlier this year. All the area teams have entered tournaments, but when you're wrestling in a league tournament, it's kind of probably got a different feel to it for the kids because you're familiar with the teams. So, unlike some of the wrestling tournaments where you have kids coming in from all over the state and even out of state, the Schuylkill League. You're a Schuylkill League wrestler. You know who the best people are at your weight class, and you're excited to get a chance to go against them.
And I know I've talked to kids over the years, and a lot of times they'll just say sometimes how difficult it is because you're so familiar sometimes with some of your opponents. I know Connor Fry, Colin Mashak, Tanner McHugh, some of these kids would always tell me that you kind of know who you're going to get throughout the course of a bracket. And it's hard because stylistically you kind of know what to expect, your opponent knows what to expect. So sometimes in a match like that, there's not always a lot you can do differently. So you're kind of just sort of, seeing what you can do and just kind of trying to, execute your game plan, I guess, to the best of your ability.
Let's talk about some of the area teams and who some of the medal favorites are from their schools. You never know, there could be somebody come from out of nowhere, but each of the 4 area schools has a few wrestlers that should contend.
And you just think, kind of going alphabetically here, we have, John Newhall and Ethan Mordaunt of Jim Thorpe. Both have been phenomenal this season.
They both have 2 tournament championships already.
Yeah, this is a case where they've just been kind of, I think, looking at some of the results, just sort of rolling through. And, John Newhall was 3rd last year. Ethan Mordaunt was 6th last year. So
you were telling me about Mordaunt. No,
he's
a
pinner.
Everybody.
He's just
one person this year.
He's just rolling. It's so impressive, and I don't know. It doesn't matter the tournament that you're in. It's just to be able to get that many pins and to have so many of those pins in the first period. to think about what he did last year, going to regionals for the first time, and now what he's done coming back this year, he's just a kid that's just absolutely been on fire. And that's something that I'm excited to see as we go forward, kind of how he takes that success and experience and translates it into even more this year. And we have other kids too. I mean, Lehighton's Nate Kemmer was 4th last year. Lehighton's Tyler Schuck was 3rd.
Kemmer's coming off a really strong performance, and this
at the
past
Indian
week's
duels.
Indian duels, he was 5-0, 4 pins.
And that's, yeah, I mean, when you see that you're kind of having that type of success and, we're getting to this point in the season where we're middle of January, February is not that far away, the postseason isn't that far away either. So this is, that's a kid that I think as a senior is in great position to cap his career with a phenomenal postseason. He's moving up. Thinking about where he is, he's closing in, I think, on 500 team points at Lehighton. He's closing in on 100 career wins.
He's top 10 in both categories, I think, in school history, with lots of room to move up even further.
There are a lot of matches left that he can obviously still check off, quite a few boxes before his career at Lehighton is done. And he's not the only one for the Indians. Logan Pagano placed last year. He was 6th. Tyler Schuck was 3rd. Chris Whiteman was 6th. Another kid to keep an eye on is Brett Gasker. He's a kid that's wrestling super well, around 220 this year with Lehighton. And, he's just, again, he's been, I think, really huge for that team. Richard Frohnheiser has been wrestling really well for Lehighton as well. He's only a freshman. So, they have a lot of kids that I think as the year's gone on that have gotten more experience and just kind of that mat time. And it looks like it's really paying dividends for them. So
another team with a number of medal contenders is Panther Valley.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about Hunter and Tanner Kennedy quite a bit, the success that they've had. But Hunter was 3rd last year, and then they had the Cobra, Derek Beckham,
best nickname in the area.
And if we could somehow work Jaguar into our tomorrow basketball, maybe we'll talk to Sam Mata about that. He's pretty good with just sort of getting those kind of things in there. But yeah, Derek Beckham's been wrestling super well. Chris Walkinshaw also placed for Panther Valley last year. But
Aaron Idams
really at heavyweight. And again, there's a kid that's been, and again, it's it's a heavyweight, but he's pinning. Like, he's just pinning, and he's wrestling so well. So I'm just kind of trying to think. Colby Newton's wrestled pretty well for Panther Valley as well. Kyle Rusnak. These are some kids that, we'll see where it shakes out.
Talked about the depth his team had this year, that it wasn't just a 2-person
Miguel Santiago,
and that's proving to be true.
And you see maybe where you end up and how things shake out, because like you said, you don't know what's going to happen when you get into a bracket and you have one upset. And look at Lucas San Giuliano last year. The kid I didn't even mention as placing at the Schuylkill League tournament was a district finalist and a regional qualifier last year.
Right.
So,
all the process.
Yeah, those kind of things happen. And then you look at Tamaqua, Caleb Sell, Pierce Demetriadis, and Bronson Strauss, all were 4th last year. Bronson Strauss, a state-ranked wrestler, much like Hunter and Tanner Kennedy, and Northwestern's Jackson Bernard and Caleb Clymer. So, again, these are kids that I think are primed.
Right, medalists last year, probably looking to step it up another level this year, and all have chances for medals.
And I think this is good too, because it seems like they can sometimes be kind of like a launch point for a lot of these kids, where you kind of get that taste.
What are we, about 3-4 weeks away from districts only?
It's like end of February, because we got to go districts, regionals, and then
teams. But
and then we have
still you're getting to the point where you're thinking about.
It's not far away.
No.
Yeah. And this is kind of one of those first things where you really start to get excited, and you can almost kind of see that light at the end of the tunnel, I guess. And we'll see what happens.
You'll be up there. It's at Blue Mountain.
Yes.
2 days, Friday night, and then most of the day Saturday.
Yes. Wrap up Saturday night usually. We'll have a little bit of a break between some of the consolation rounds in the morning, and then come back for the medal rounds at night, I believe, and have the medal presentations and ceremonies. It was at Jim Thorpe last year, so certainly always nice convenience-wise for us to have that so close. But even Blue Mountain's not that far away.
And speaking of wrestling, you're you're on the mat.
Yeah, the wrestling column.
Oh, your wrestling column, yeah, that I
we'll
just couldn't think of the name.
We'll be
Thursday's
Thursday's paper. I
this
guess
week.
we're going to kind of keep it Thursday the rest of the season for at least a little while. So.
Well, then it's not the rest of the season if it's just for a little while. You just don't know what day you want to run.
Well, it's gonna. I guess
it'll be Wednesday or Thursday or Friday. Just look every day. And
it'll be in the paper at one point. At one point.
But you have a pretty cool story this week.
Yeah.
Check it out. It's in Thursday's paper.
I mean, some of the teams, and I don't know if people have noticed, but the uniforms have been a little different for some of the teams this year.
Yeah, we
not
get away
just
from
singlets.
singlets.
Yeah. Kind of going with shorts and shirts and almost like MMA type style shorts, and it's interesting. It's a very different look. I think some kids seem to really like it. Maybe more comfortable with it. Yeah. So see if it kind of generates that interest level in wrestling. Maybe get some more kids out that would have otherwise turned away from it, I guess, and kind of see sort of what the feedback and the response has been from some of the teams that have gone to it so far this year.
And speaking of that, our basketball page, which ran on Tuesday, if you haven't seen it yet, check it out. You can get a copy or you can check it online. Rich Strack did a really interesting piece on a couple of the area athletic directors and what goes on in preparing for a basketball game between ticket sellers and scoreboard operators and security. There's a lot more than meets the eye to putting on a basketball game, and Rich talks to Mike Romiak at Tamaqua, Jason Zimmerman at Northwestern, and they're two veteran athletic directors, and talks to them a little bit about what it takes to get ready for a basketball game.
Yeah, a lot of coordination, a lot of cooperation with teams, administrators. Think about busing companies. We see that all the time when emails start rolling in about postponements.
I was just going to say that's not even talking about postponements because that's where they really are busy at this time of the year.
Just because it's a snow day doesn't mean that their work stops. I think in a lot of cases they're working even harder on days like that to make sure.
Between phone calls and emails, we heard from every athletic director in our coverage area today. So even though all the schools were off, they were all rearranging schedules and flipping home and away events and switching times and putting girls boys games together. It takes a lot of work because you only have so long to get all these games in.
Oh yeah.
So it's tough squeezing them in. So shout out to the athletic directors in the area. It's a tough job, and the ones we have in our area are really good. They're very cooperative. Really make our job easier by getting us the information.
Yeah, and I can't say enough about the guys that we get to work with
and
the girls with Kristen Black, and they do a really good job of keeping us up to date. And anything we need, we're pretty much always able to get it, and it's readily available. So
sounds good.
So I think that's all. I have anything else?
No, I have nothing else.
So that's it for this week. Feels like this was like a red-eye edition of Sports Chat. Thanks for sticking with us, and hopefully to see you again next week.